Welcome to the D-Shift podcast, where we provide inspiration, motivation, and education to help you transition from the challenges of divorce to discover the freedom and ability to live life on your own terms. Are you ready? Let's get this shift started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the D-Shift podcast. And this is a wonderful day to listen in. I'm so happy you took the time to do this. Have a phenomenal expert with me today, Claudia Braun. She is a mindset and lifestyle coach that helps women who are just giving too much of themselves and ending up feeling drained and exhausted through the process. So, Claudia, thank you so much for being here. I am so happy to hear this because this is a topic that really resonates with women.
Mardi, thank you so much for having me. I am so glad to be here to talk about this. It is really near and dear to my heart, and truly for me it came from my own experience of overgiving and losing myself in the process and truly not knowing myself. So it makes me extremely happy to be able to share this with your audience, with you. And if you're listening, when you're listening, I really love that you're able to take it into your life and really see like how there can be changes that can happen as a result of our conversation today.
Yeah, thank you. So I like that you talked a little bit right there about how you got passionate about this area. Can you just share a little bit about maybe what that journey looked like for you?
Sure. So, I tell people that I was one of those women, like kind of a classic story. And this sort of was like a bit of an eye opener for me. So I was young, I would say I was in my 20s. And at the time, my boyfriend was kind of like, you need to see my therapist. And so that was kind of a clue. But I thought, okay, sure. And so I was sitting in my boyfriend's therapist office, and he looked at me and he said, like, why are you here? Like, what's the problem? And I said, I don't know how to make my boyfriend happy and my family happy at the same time. And Marty, the look in his eye was like, I didn't know what the problem was, but I knew there was a problem just in that statement.
I was going to say, and today we hear the term a lot, people pleaser or pleasers. They kind of, the spectrum with narcissists at one end and pleasers at the other. And neither end is really good to be at, is it?
No, and that's the thing, is that it really is truly that ability to be with knowing what we need instead of being so externally focused.
Right.
And that was the thing for me, is that, I'm forever grateful to that experience because it really opened the door to me to realize something is wrong with me and the way I am, the filter in which I see things, that I think somehow it's my job to make people happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that had me saying yes to things that I didn't really know. And this really what I talk to my clients about, and really what I share, is that owning your yes means that you own your no. You need to be able to say no.
Yeah. And so many, and it's funny how many of our conversations on this podcast come back to this. And I think there's a reason it does. We, as women, as young girls, as, in our families, in society, in classrooms, in everything, it's like, you have to take care of others. You have to be worried about other people's feelings. Don't hurt somebody's feelings. Don't say that. Don't do that. I grew up where my mom and my dad had a wonderful relationship. So there's nothing dysfunctional in my family. I mean, I'm sure there was. Every family's dysfunctional, but you know what I mean? I mean, it was a great, loving family. No problems there. But my mother never corrected my father in public. Even if he was wrong, she would, and it was because she would say, it's not respectful. We'll talk about it. And she would talk about it when they got home and say, that wasn't accurate, or that made me feel uncomfortable, or that wasn't the right thing to say, or whatever. But it was never in public. And those kind of messages, they seep in over time, right? That we're not supposed to rock the boat.
Exactly. You don't want to make anybody else feel uncomfortable by sharing your feelings.
Yeah.
So the message is don't share your feelings because somebody else will be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And, that's such a great realization on your part to get. I mean, I understand that thinking about, there's something about putting something, in public about, I don't want to make, I don't, it's like to not put someone in somehow like a negative light or something. And I get that. Uh, but there is a way to be able to have a conversation with
Right.
somebody like something here doesn't feel right. Like, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. And even, in the workplace too. I mean, it was really hard. I grew up my first job, all male. I was the only woman working in this organization. And it was a packing plant, like a beef slaughter plant. So it was, I learned pretty quickly there, you either spoke up or you just got all the shit jobs, like literally the shit jobs. That's what you were doing. Right? So it was like really important to learn to speak up. And then I went into a teaching situation where it was almost all women, and I would speak up, and everybody would kind of be like, "Oh, you're so brave. I can't believe you said that." Why do we have this as women? Why?
exactly. And that it's so fascinating. You got the message. If I don't, I'm going to be stepped over. And so you saw this is the way to get my needs met. And that's the thing is that as women, we, trained as little girls, is that, and especially I think it's also generational. I have a client who, she's in her late 60s, and she said to me, I grew up where children were meant to be seen and not
Not
heard,
heard. Yeah.
right? Now, that is not really a phrase that most people at this time I hear, but that was part of her programming. And she's an accountant. I mean, she's an established person, established woman with, family and all that. But that programming, so strong in her, it has taken so much work, continues to take work of her being able to own her voice.
Yeah.
And so I think that it has a lot to do with, well, my experience and through coaching and through my clients, programming, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's constant programming. And you think about like even in schools now, right? How do they make kids, how are kids manageable? Like on their own, they're all, talking at the same time. You can't get them in line. But there's a lot of you line up, you do this, you do that, right? It's that formation and control that gets exerted and we accept it.
Right.
And so then it takes going out into the world and go, wait a minute, I get to speak up when I've been told I have to raise my hand to talk, right?
Right. Yeah. So let's say that, and I agree with you about the generational thing. As a matter of fact, right now, a lot of this, when I work with people in mediations or when I work with my clients, they kind of have like no filter now. It's just everything comes up. And it's like it's almost swung the pendulum, like I guess it swings back and forth, and there's both ends. Why do you think the giving to the point of exhaustion, where does that come in though? Because that's a little different than just not rocking the boat. And what I'm hearing you say is, with your clients, a lot of them just give and give and give. What do you think is going on there? And is it just lack of boundaries? That buzzword now that everybody talks about? I did
Well,
air quotes. You can't see them if you're listening to this one. Yes.
well, I think it's a couple of things, right? I mean, so when one is a people pleaser, when we get our good feelings from pleasing others, it feels good. I mean, there is a internal sense of when it feels good, I want more of that. So somebody asked me to do a project, say, and so I say yes. And then I get strokes for stepping up to do that. A neighbor then says, hey, can you fill in for this? Sure. Oh my gosh, then more. And instead of looking at schedule and going, does this work for me? Or is this put things way out of whack in my life? There's just the knee jerk. And this is what I see is there's the knee jerk response to say yes, because I want to help somebody out. I want them to be happy. I want them to feel good and then feel good about me.
Hmm.
So that's where that comes from, that constant feeling of, I just need to do that. And it's a lack of going within and really asking oneself, what do I need here?
Right. Yeah. And I really heard that message that you're that statement that you just said about getting like those external, that external validation, that external praise for doing something over and above. And then that just leads you to keep doing more and more and more to keep getting that praise. And I think a lot of that has to do with not valuing ourselves internally, right? Do you see
So
that?
right. So right, right. It's that, yeah. And that's it. It goes back to that really that young place of feeling like somehow when you're not validated as a kid and when you're not made to feel that just who you are is good enough, not because of what you do, not because of what you say, not because of the grades you bring home, but just because of who you are, you intrinsic value of your human nature. We keep there's that feeling, and again it really does go back to that programming, is that child of being able to, another client who said, it's like, I was, my mom's helper. I did all this stuff. I did all those things for her. There were a bunch of kids. She was overextended. I filled in. Like, it gets programmed from a really young
Yeah.
age.
Yeah. It's really interesting, Claudia. I had a parenting coach on, Maria, and she said, you know, instead of taking your kids out for ice cream when they do well on a test or, buying them some little reward for that, what about just taking them home for ice cream one day when they just get through school because they're such a wonderful kid, rather than making those rewards based on, like you said, those external, extrinsic kind of things in life.
It's so true.
So programming starts at a young age, but that doesn't mean it has to stay with us, right? You help clients deprogram and reprogram, I'm guessing, right?
A really good way of saying that. It's a deprogramming, right? Because it's really stepping into another version. Like having, and I would say that, when you're listening to this, I would really consider what are the things that you're saying yes to? And are those things really things that you want to do? Like really start asking yourself the question. And that's really what I have my clients start doing is just start writing a list. Write a list of all the things you say yes to. I had a client, she was really struggling with just way over scheduled saying yes, like just so many things. And she realized even before she got out of bed, there were like 20 things she needed to do. And I was like, I just had to write it down because she didn't realize all the things she was doing or all the things she was saying yes to. So, like, when you're listening to this, like, start writing down what are the things you're saying yes to because, I always say change is a three-part process. The first thing is awareness. We have to be aware of what we're doing and how we're doing it. And the second thing is acceptance. Like, oh, because there's a wanting to go into judgment. Oh my God, why didn't I get this sooner? I should have known this. How could I have not seen this? Right? There's all this internal, self-flagellation because what's wrong with me? So acceptance is really kind of like, oh, I get it. Like, I get that this is causing my life to be out of balance, for me to not feel good about me.
Yeah. Hmm.
So have my clients really go there. And then the third thing we can do is start to take some action. And the action can look like first, like starting to really look at what is the thinking that's telling, some of what we've spoken about. What is the thinking for one of my clients that, children are meant to be seen and not heard. It's not, I should be able to,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. All that should, which, keeps one in shame, keeps one feeling guilty if we step out. So first, it's really that looking at the languaging that's going on in our mind. And then from that place, being able to create strategies to start to turn things around and to be able to start saying something different inside to ourselves and really coming to that place of, I deserve to take care of myself.
Yeah.
and really coming to that place of when I take care of myself, everything else in my life will also take care of itself. And it's simple to say, but it's a big shift. And it connects with like the languaging in your podcast, right? That shift is a process. So I want you to know that when you're listening to this, it's like, it's not a, I snap my finger and it's,
Right.
right? When it's been decades of doing something the same old, it's a practice.
Yeah.
And then I work with my clients around changing the programming that has kept them stuck and really clearing old patterns. And through that, really looking. So I use a practice emotional freedom technique of clearing the neurological pathways, because our brain, it's like always like, it's like the grooves have been set. It's like the train tracks are down, and that's the
Right.
way the train goes.
That's the way it runs. Yep. Gotcha. Yeah.
So we're going to pull up the tracks. So it's like, oh, and it initially is a little disorienting. So part of the work I do with my clients is that, as you so clearly said, it's a reprogramming to take out the old and put in what they really want.
Right. And I love that whole idea. I was just at a workshop the other day and they were talking about what stories are you telling yourself that are supporting dysfunctional thinking. you know, like I have to be with my kids 24/7 when we're going. I'm just going to use this because this is a divorce podcast. I got to be with my kids 24/7 when we're going through the divorce because I'm the only one that can nurture and care for them. Really? Like your parents couldn't, or your sister couldn't, or, they couldn't go to their friend's house for an overnight and you can just go to a B&B and relax yourself because your mind has told you to be a great mom, you got to be with your kids 24/7. I mean, that's the message, right? So we have to, I love the idea of breaking out. And I also really think it's important what you're saying is you don't have to be a Stepford wife where you're in lockstep with everybody around you. You can be a very high achieving professional and still doing a whole bunch of stuff that you don't really want to do and it's not serving you, but you just do it because you feel compelled to do it or you feel like you have to do it.
It's so true. And I love what you said because, and I think, I hear this frequently is, and I use air quotes as well, the mom guilt.
Yeah.
Because it's a thing. Like people, and especially I would say probably when one is going through a divorce or one knows that maybe they're gone a lot, there's even more guilt because there's that feeling of I have to make up for the fact that this is happening, or I have to make up for the fact that I'm not at everything. It's like, okay, that's a belief that we've told ourselves, that you continually tell yourself, or perhaps a parent is telling you, or somehow society is telling you. So I love what you said because, we are always our worst enemy.
Yeah.
And the only thing that we can change or control is our mind.
Yeah.
And that's where our power is.
Yeah.
And I always tell my clients, it's like, take your power back and take your thinking back. And it's like, your mind can be used for good or evil. Right?
Yeah, exactly. This is such an empowering conversation. And, I don't know, do you know Kelly Filardo?
No.
Okay, I did a podcast with her a little bit ago, and she was talking about being a single mom and having this opportunity to take this fantastic job, but she was going to have to be on the road a whole bunch, and how she felt so guilty leaving her kids, even though they were very well cared for, I think with her parents. I'm thinking that was what it was. But she felt this overwhelming sense of guilt about having to leave them at home. And we got talking and I thought, but if you were in a dual parent household, if the other parent had to go work and was out of town a long period of time, nobody, especially a man, nobody would think anything of that. It would be like, well, he's just got a great job and you should just be thankful he's got a great job. Right? And so I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but what do you say to the professional woman who is, or the entrepreneur who is putting in the extra hours, who is going the extra mile, who is passionate about what they're doing, but but then is finding themselves falling back into these old traps. What is there one kind of specific thing that they can do to maybe start making that shift other than working with you as a coach, by the way? But is there any one kind of technique or strategy you could maybe say, this might be a way to get started on that ripping up the tracks idea?
Well, I would say a couple things come to mind, and one of them is reminding yourself of why you're doing what you're doing. And just as you said, right, it's your passion. It's your passion to do this. And I would absolutely share this with your children. And, it's starting to make your children understand they have passions too, and the power of owning your passion. Because when our children see parents feeling like they're doing this and they're sacrificing, the child also feels the guilt of that experience. And somehow maybe they're holding you back. So ideally, it's making it a win-win for everybody and really sharing how much you love them and how much you love your work. And like, let them be excited about this too. And like, oh, mommy, I love that you're doing this. And maybe they have passion about their crayons or their kids, or you know what? And I would say, stay, because that's the feeling of love. And when you stay in that feeling of love, you're in that place of flow and creation. And it is not a place of guilt. So that is really the first thing that comes to mind. And I'd say the second thing really kind of ties into that is that the more you can share in small bites with your children, your love and your passion, and instill that love and passion within your children, you create amazing children and an
Yeah.
amazing team.
What a wonderful, that's such fantastic tips. And I think that as women, we just have to be okay with you're not necessarily choosing a job over your family. There's a season where you may need to spend more time at your job so that in the future you can spend more time with your family. I mean, all of these things come full circle. But I love the idea of getting rid of those old messages, those programmed things that are no longer serving us. So, Claudia, we have covered a ton of information. I can't believe how fast 20 minutes can go. It's just like this.
I
Uh,
know.
what do you want people to think about when they go on about their business today?
So I really want you to consider the fact that throughout the day, think about what are you saying yes to? And think about, is that a true yes? Or is that a yes that's come from programming? I should say yes. Why don't I want to say yes to this? Give yourself a pause before you respond so that you know whether or not it's a true yes or is it a no. And also know that in that you become more authentically you, and you give the other person and that situation the opportunity to know you. So that's what I would really love for you as you're listening to take away from this.
That is so important. And I think you have a free gift that kind of ties right into this, right? Do you want to share a
I
little bit about that?
do. Yeah. So this topic, as you know, is so near and dear to my heart because I know it makes a difference once this starts to come into play. So I've put together 3 strategies to own your yes and own your no, and it really takes you through 3 different specific strategies you can implement into your life, and kind of like the one that we talked about a little bit of, kind of writing down what are you saying yes to. So it's something that you can write about, you can kind of get into and really start to implement into your life. So I would love to share this with you and be able to start to play with it and really start to make some changes in your life.
Yeah, and the link for that free gift and go get it is going to be in the show notes. Claudia, if women want to find out more about what you do or they want to reach out and work with you, what's the best way to get a hold of you or find out more about you?
Yeah, so you're welcome to reach out to me at Claudia, Claudia hyphen Braun, Braun.com, and you can reach out to me, contact me through that. And I would love to have a conversation about where you're at, and let's help you get to where you really want to go.
Yes, and please, 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 if you feel that obligation to say yes to things and you're going like after you get off the phone, why the hell did I say yes to that? Reach out and talk to Claudia because she's going to be able to help you. Claudia, thank you so much for being here today.
Marty, thanks so much for having me. I love what you're doing. I love your show, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you here. And I am very happy to have you listening in. And thank you again for giving us your time and attention. And please don't forget to tune in next Tuesday for another episode of The D Shift. Thanks for listening and supporting the D Shift podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the D Shift crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.